What's up, guys? Swift here covering everything Chicago Bears, and you know I'm always prepared, especially when Luke Getsy gets fired, just like I expected. Matt Eberflus will return and coach the 2024 Bears, but the rest of the staff, other than O-line coach Chris Morgan, has been fired. Today I'm going over the top candidates to replace Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator. We will also need a new defensive coordinator, wide receivers coach, QB coach, and more. But today I wanted to cover some of my top OC candidates. I have put a lot of time into this. Let's get right into it. First up, I want to talk about two of the really popular names that a lot of people are going to bring up instantly, Frank Reich and Eric Bienemy. Frank Reich is a bit weird to me. He's been fired midway through both of the last two seasons, but he's also a well-respected offensive name around the league. His last two stints as head coach have not turned out that well, but the last time he was an offensive coordinator, he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. He also has deep connections and roots to Matt Eberflus, so the connections are going to be brought up right away, and his success as an offensive coordinator would be reason for excitement if he ended up with the job. However, I just get some weird vibes from this guy, and I honestly don't know how happy I would be if this is who we hired.
They all mean a lot, but this one means a lot to me. Woo! Woo!
But his previous success as an OC and friendship with Eberflus might make it work. But then moving on, Eric Bienemy is another really popular name among Bears fans. He worked with Ryan Poles for 9 years in Kansas City and stepped out from underneath Andy Reid's shadow this year to call plays on his own with the Commanders. The problem is it really didn't work out. The Commanders landed the number 2 pick in the draft and had one of the worst offenses in the NFL. On top of that, it's always been odd to me that Ryan Poles never interviewed Bienemy when he got hired here. He knew him better than anyone else and chose to pass on him. For that reason and Washington's failures this season, I do not see Bienemy as a likely candidate. However, he is a big name and worked closely with Patrick Mahomes for years. I just do not think he's the guy. Next up, Greg Roman, another very popular name and someone that a lot of fans will definitely be talking about. He took the 2023 season off after leaving Baltimore, where he was the Ravens' offensive coordinator since 2019. Previously, he was the OC for the Bills and the 49ers as well. He's worked in the NFL since 1995 and has 10 years under his belt as an OC and plenty of experience calling plays. But there's something that a lot of people miss is who Greg Roman is as a play caller and a coach. If we get Roman, we are going to run the ball as much as anyone in the NFL. Greg Roman prioritizes the run game. In his 10 years as an offensive coordinator, he's never had a rushing offense finish outside the top 10 in the NFL. That's insane. In fact, he had a top 5 rushing attack in 9 out of his 10 seasons as an OC. 9 straight years from 2012 to 2022, Greg Roman orchestrated one of the league's top 5 most successful rushing attacks. That's impressive to put on your resume. Hearing that might make you think he's perfect for the job. The problem is the NFL is becoming more and more of a passing league, and Roman seems better suited for football in the 90s. His passing offenses have been the exact opposite. He has never had a top 10 passing offense and only had a passing offense that ranked in the top 20 one time in his entire coaching career. In 8 out of the last 10 years, he's produced a bottom 5 passing offense in the NFL. So yes, Greg Roman is a huge name. And if we got him, we'd almost certainly be one of the best rushing offenses in the NFL next year. But is that what we want? To me, not really. I think he is a guy who could have success in Chicago, but he's not a guy who's going to develop Justin Fields as a passer. So let's move on to some guys I think could be better fits. First up is Clint Kubiak. Clint's father, Gary Kubiak, was a Super Bowl winning head coach and came from the same coaching tree as Mike Shanahan. Together, Shanahan and Kubiak helped revolutionize what is now known as the West Coast offense. the same offense currently used by the 49ers, Dolphins, Packers, and other teams in the NFL. This is my favorite offensive philosophy in the league, and Kubiak is well versed. So what has Clint done in the NFL? For one, he has experience calling plays in the league. He did it for the Minnesota Vikings in 2021. He then would spend 2022 as the QB coach for Russell Wilson in Denver before joining the 49ers this season and spending a year working under the wing of Kyle Shanahan. It's a cool story to me because Mike Shanahan and Gary Kubiak worked together decades ago, and now both their sons are working together in San Francisco this season. But on top of that, it's just more experience for Clint Kubiak. Spending a year with Kyle Shanahan can only help his career. He already has an impressive resume, having worked in the NFL for over 10 years and spent time with quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, and Brock Purdy. He also has two brothers who work in the NFL. One is a QB coach on the 49ers with him, and another is a scout for the Dallas Cowboys. Kubiak is a well-respected name, a guy whose dad helped revolutionize the West Coast offense, and he's actually had success as a play caller at the NFL level. To me, Clint Kubiak is an awesome candidate. Moving on to another guy I like a lot is Jim Caldwell, a guy who was a finalist for the head coaching job when Matt Eberflus got hired. Caldwell is a QB guru who was a former head coach for the Lions and the Colts and has plenty of play calling experience. He also worked under John Harbaugh with the Ravens. He worked with Matt Stafford, Peyton Manning, Tua in Miami, and Bryce Young. He went to the Super Bowl as a head coach and took his team to the playoffs 4 out of his 7 years as a head coach. He is very experienced and had a ton of success working with a variety of different quarterbacks. I respect Jim Caldwell a ton, and he has probably the most play calling success out of anyone on this list. His work with quarterbacks has been outstanding, and he's a guy who is right at the top of my list of favorite candidates to come in and replace Luke Getsy. And then in a similar vein, Bevell is another guy who once interviewed for the Bears head coaching job but did not land it. He's had a ton of success in the NFL. Currently, Bevell is the passing game coordinator for the best passing attack in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins. He's not the play caller, but he has a lot of experience calling plays in the NFL and has spent this year watching Mike McDaniels call plays in Miami and working alongside him. Also on his resume, he's worked with a ton of QBs, such as Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, Brett Favre, and plenty more. Bevell is another guy I would love to see get the job here. Next up is another guy I really like, Pep Hamilton. He actually worked in Chicago as the Bears QB coach from 2007 to 2009. He's most renowned for his work with Andrew Luck, both at Stanford and then moving on with the Colts. Last year, he was the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. He's another guy with play calling experience who is well respected around the league, especially for his work with young quarterbacks. On top of Andrew Luck, he also worked with Justin Herbert as a rookie with the Chargers and is a guy I really like. Pep was not in the NFL this year. He took a season off, but he's one of my favorites for the job and definitely a guy to keep an eye on going forward. Okay, next up I have a couple very intriguing sleeper prospects. First up is Brian Callahan, the Bengals offensive coordinator. He's another interesting choice that also comes from the West Coast style of offense. He does not call plays for the Bengals, but he has worked with Joe Burrow and Jake Browning for years. He also worked underneath John Gruden, Jim Caldwell, and even Gary Kubiak. He won a Super Bowl in Denver with Kubiak and Peyton Manning and is well respected throughout the NFL. The Bears could entice him to join the team by giving him play calling duties and would probably have to give him a title like assistant head coach or something to make it work. Callahan is a guy who hasn't called plays yet, but other than calling plays himself, he has a ton of experience and would be an interesting choice for the Bears. And then we get to Mike LaFleur. He's currently the Rams offensive coordinator, but who better to run a Packers style of the McVay-Shanahan West Coast offense than a guy who currently works under Sean McVay and is the brother of Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. Mike LaFleur also has play calling experience and has experience running a similar style of offense. He also no longer is calling plays with the Rams. That's Sean McVay's job, so we could also present him with an opportunity to call plays again. Now, after hiring Luke Getsy, some fans might be totally against this. No way do they want Matt LaFleur's brother, but this guy's well respected around the NFL and is not a bad name to monitor. He worked under Kyle Shanahan with the Falcons and 49ers. He then went and took the Jets OC job in 2021. This year he returned to the Rams after parting ways with the Jets. Mike LaFleur is definitely a guy I would keep my eye on. Okay, now that I got most of the big candidates out of the way, I also wanted to address some of the other names that you might hear people talking about. For the most part, I do not believe these guys will end up coaching here, but I wanted to briefly mention them in case you guys were wondering about their names. First up, though, is the wild card, Cliff Kingsbury. This one would make a ton of sense if Caleb Williams was going to be our guy. He was USC's quarterback coach and senior offensive analyst with Caleb Williams. He's a former NFL head coach who led Kyler Murray to 2 Pro Bowl seasons while calling plays and coaching the Cardinals. If we're taking Caleb Williams, we might as well bring Cliff Kingsbury with him. I don't know how likely that is, though. Moving on, Kellen Moore is another big name in the NFL, and he was the play caller with the Dallas Cowboys when they had one of the best offenses in the NFL just a couple years ago. The former Boise State quarterback has done some great work with Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, but predicting if he leaves and where he goes is anyone's guess, and I do not see him ending up in Chicago. I also saw Marcus Brady's name get thrown around a bit, due to his connections with Eberflus in Indy. This is a guy who was on Mark Trestman's coaching staff in the CFL. I'm gonna pass, no thank you. Other names people were throwing around but I don't consider serious are former Bears quarterback Josh McCown, who was a QB coach with the Panthers this year. I just don't think he's quite ready yet. Ryan Day is another big name. He is Ohio State's head coach and Justin Fields' former coach. I don't think he's leaving Ohio State. And then Mike Vrabel, who just got fired. I think Vrabel will most likely land another head coaching job. And if he doesn't, I think he takes a year off from the NFL and gets a head coaching job next season. Also, one final name to add to this list. This was a surprise candidate. I'm adding this in late. Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, was not thought to be available at all, but there is now a chance he could be, as reports are now surfacing that Pete Carroll is expected to be out as the Seattle Seahawks coach. No idea what's going on there, but if Shane Waldron becomes available, another great name to add to the list. Okay, so now that we've gone through all the potential candidates, how about we rank them and I give you my top 5 guys who could come in and replace Luke Getsy as the Bears offensive coordinator. My top 5 guys are going to be Jim Caldwell, Pep Hamilton, Darrell Bevell, Clint Kubiak, and Mike LaFleur. All 5 of those guys have experience calling plays in the NFL. All 5 of these guys have had success working with young quarterbacks, and I actually think all 5 of these guys would consider coming to the Bears and taking this job. Right now, I don't have a personal favorite on the list. I like all 5 of these dudes. Let me know in the comments if you guys have a personal favorite or if there's someone I left off. I know Deuce Staley's name has been thrown out there and some other guys. For me, I want a quarterback guru. I want a guy who would come in and work with Justin Fields. Ryan Poles' press conference along with Matt Eberflus and Kevin Warren is set for 3 p.m. Central today. Don't miss that. I'll probably have another video tonight breaking down what's discussed in that one. This video took a ton of work. Please hit that like button for me, guys. I appreciate everyone who watches. This off season is about to get crazy. Please hit that like button for me. Stay tuned, and until next time, bear down.